Okay, it's official. Well, welcome to another CCA podcast. We were calling it Pod People Podcast, but anybody who saw the those Body Snatcher movies, I don't know if that's a great connection to make, but
Some of us are into that kind of thing.
maybe yes, the great movie. Yes, I think the that one with Donald Sutherland was is gave me nightmares. But we're not here
That
to
was
give you
well done.
nightmares. We're here to inspire you. I'm here, Matt Hall. We've done a few of these for Coffee Compassion Action, and Sarah O'Haver's here, who's uh, doing a lot of organizational work and various things. She can tell you what she does with CCA. And we're here with Carlos Ramirez, who is with Ballot Integrity Alliance-Cincinnati, a local Cincinnati organization involved uh, with access to ballots and ballot security and the politics and policies of voting and ballot access in the Cincinnati area, which it sounds, now that I think about it, you've got three different states. I don't know if you operate in Kentucky or Indiana, but we certainly have members there who might want to hear about those, as well as what's going on in Ohio and all the different localities that are involved. So Carlos, go ahead, tell us about your organization, a little bit of the history, and what you're doing and how you came to be part of it. People are always interested in your personal journey too.
Sure. Well, the name's Carlos Ramirez. I'm from the Cincinnati area, and I've been on a local secular community advocacy group called Tri-State Freethinkers. I'm on the board. I'm also the council, and we've been around since about 2012. I've been involved with them since about 2014. We get involved in community service and activism, secular activism, but this year in particular, I was talking with some of our members about what we should be doing this year, and the consensus seemed to be that the midterms and election protection was something that we should be getting involved with in order to because we had concerns about whether or not these elections will indeed go off without a hitch, and we were following, for example, there's a well-known pro-democracy attorney named Mark Elias who has a newsletter called Democracy Docket. I, in particular, have subscribed to his document, his newsletter, and have been reading it. And I've been very concerned about a lot of things. And one of the things I'm particularly concerned about is that there was a lot of election interference news right now, and a lot of them are getting attention, but some of them I thought were kind of falling under the radar a little bit. And it was the ones that were falling under the radar that was kind of concerning me. So, for example, like the SAVE Act, the gerrymandering, the mail-in ballots, that's all been getting a lot of attention. But I remember hearing after the 2020 election about how in December, so this is about a month after the 2020 election, when of course Donald Trump lost, he had some election denying attorneys come to him. I think Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, maybe some. I think there were a few others who somehow convinced him that, hey, you could, even though the election has already been had and has already been called for Joe Biden, it was still being disputed in the courts, and it had not been certified yet, of course, which of course led to the January 6th situation. So they had convinced Trump that he could send the military or the National Guard or even the FBI to seize ballot boxes and voting machines, not necessarily from the entire country, but just trying to target certain states and certain counties. And of course, these would be the most important counties in terms of swinging the election.
And
Um,
Carlos, you're talking about events after the 2020 election, right? But
correct.
when did your personal interest in
Mhm,
this happen? When did you become concerned? When did you start to become
mhm.
active on issues of ballot integrity? What's your kind of your journey through that? When did you come into it and
Sure.
come to it?
Well, I'm an attorney, and I have a degree in political science and government from Miami University, right up the highway here. So I've been a student of government for a long time. Um, and when I was hearing about this news from 2020, and I was hearing that Donald Trump was being was actually saying that he wished he had seized the ballots and that he wished he had done it sooner. I thought to myself, well, what if he does that this time? Because, what's to keep him from doing this now? Apparently, what stopped him from doing it last time was his Attorney General, Bill Barr, refused, and also his White House counsel also refused to assist with that. So it didn't happen. It didn't materialize. The current Attorney General, we don't think is probably going to refuse such a request from Trump, or the Secretary of Defense is not likely to refuse either. So we think that this is a much more serious risk this time around. It may be even more so in 2028, but of course we're dealing with the midterms right now. So we think that this is something that could possibly happen. If there were a ballot seizure, we are thinking that those of us who founded Ballot Integrity Alliance-Cincinnati, we're thinking that it would be most effective at interfering with the election if it were done the night of the election, or maybe the day after, maybe even before the election was called, for various, congressional, Senate, the governor races, some of these more strategic races. They could really be interfered with if the ballots or the voting machines were taken, seized by, federal authorities or by the military before the elections could be even called for one way or another for various
But
candidates.
I mean, I'm reading more and more people are talking about those very kinds of issues, kind of looking ahead,
Mhm.
looking ahead to, I mean, how long is it till the November election now? What, 6 months?
It's yes, first Tuesday in November always.
Right. So, but when did you actually start the ballot initiative? And
Mhm.
what have you actually done here in Cincinnati, which means, of course, the state of Ohio, state of Kentucky, state of Indiana, and maybe even, I don't know if what means in dealing with local government. When did you start and what have you done here in the area?
The approximately 20 members who are members of the Ballot Integrity Alliance Cincinnati right now, we founded it here in Cincinnati. We added hyphen Cincinnati at the end because the idea is that we will share this with other communities, other states, other local, cities
Mhm.
around the country. We're going to hopefully export the concept of what we're doing to other places. But we are a Cincinnati-based organization. We started around wintertime, actually, is when we first started talking about it. We did a lot of planning first because we had to think, okay, so what is the risk,
This
and
last
how do we
winter?
address
This last winter, was it?
this past winter is when we started talking about it,
Okay,
and
so
we did a
this
lot.
is I think people like to know this is a new kind of grassroots movement, and people feel that they can become involved in those and they can have a real
Yeah.
impact, a particular impact when it is a new forming grassroots kind of organization, as opposed to a long time established.
Right, but
You
there's
know.
a lot of things about Ballot Integrity Alliance that I think people are going to be very attracted to.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, what you're doing, yeah. But I just giving a little background to that because people are watching this with all kinds of different interests and experiences. Maybe they have no contact with political activity at all. Others have more. Where on earth did they fit into it? They don't know. Maybe they
Mhm,
never thought about politics before 6 months ago, and now they really
mhm.
care. And so I'm just, just kind of
Yeah.
showing that you and 20 other people came together and recently formed an organization. That alone, I mean, that's kind of an example to people that can inspire and encourage them to to get in on a growing movement. So that's really recent that you've been doing things. And what I mean, organizing, getting to know each other, building relationships, that's an important part of any grassroots organization. Having a degree of trust and respect and understanding with each other. But what have you done as an organization? What are the things you've chosen to do? There's so much to do, and you have to kind of prioritize what you do. What have you particularly done?
Well, we established our mission statement, but first we had our problem statement, and we discussed, okay, how do we address the problem statement? And then we established a mission statement. And then we established the concept, what it is we plan to do to address this issue. Because, for example, the political parties have their lawyers, and the idea, and their candidates will have their lawyers, and they will engage in court battles over, election issues and interference. But the question is, well, what are the people going to do in the meantime? Just be spectators? And we thought, okay, well, maybe the people should be doing more than just being spectators in these court battles or whatever is going on. So maybe we should be ourselves engaging in some sort of political activism. For example, just keeping watch of what's going on, and that's probably one of the most important things is we're going to be keeping watch on any signs leading up to the election, trying to see, okay, what might the federal government have in mind? What are they preparing for? What are they planning? What are they talking about? Who are the main election deniers, either in the government or adjacent to the government? And what are they saying? What are they doing? We're going to be keeping watch on these kinds of things, and we're going to be, deciding, okay, is this something that should be reported to the public? Should we be educating the public on these, specific things that the administration might be doing to try to interfere with the election?
So
Um,
are you focusing more on the national government or the state government? Because of course, by tradition, at least, state governments run elections and have real leeway about how they conduct them. Where are you putting your focus now?
Sure. It's not just by tradition. The Constitution, Article 1, Section 4 actually says that it's the states that hold elections. The federal government has a very limited role. And in fact, it's when it says when the Constitution says the federal government has any role in elections, it's actually Congress, not the president, that has that adjacent role to the states in terms of administering state and federal elections. Now, it is the federal government that I think Ballot Integrity Alliance is most concerned about, watching it because, of course, the federal government under President Donald Trump is, they seem to be the ones who are kind of guiding some of the election denialism movement that is kind of rampant in our society right now. But it's not just the president. I mean, I heard the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, kind of almost repeating verbatim some things that, for example, I think J.D. Vance was saying about, you can't, we want to restore confidence in the elections, which is kind
That's
of
true.
ironic.
If
Yeah.
you begin researching the question of ballot integrity, you're going to come
Mhm.
across a lot uh, you're going to come across a lot of causes and movements in people who are trying to restrict ballot access, people who would disagree with you profoundly, disagree with us about ballot access, profoundly undemocratic, anti-democratic movements. If
Yes.
you use that term, that they're trying to co-opt that term, and confuse the situation, confuse the question. But now, I mean, are you communicating with people? Are you interacting with people? Are you making people aware of your existence? How are you expressing or making people aware that
Mhm.
you're watching, that you're gathering information?
We are in constant contact with other Cincinnati area activists, and the reason we're focusing on Cincinnati, of course, is because we're from Cincinnati, and with the idea is, of course, you think nationally, but you act locally. And we're also in touch with other activists throughout the state of Ohio because Ohio is a battleground state when it comes to, for example, the U.S. Senate election and also the governor's race. And also, we have been in touch with activist groups, election protection groups in other parts of the country. We've just gotten started with that. We just started our social media campaign not too long ago. We just started the Facebook page, I think just about 4 weeks ago, maybe. We have been reaching out to legacy media. We've been reaching out to reporters. We haven't had that much success yet, really. I mean, we kind of like gotten responses saying, okay, well, thanks. Let us know if you hear of anything, that kind of response. But we're really trying to get a little more attention from the media, not just because we want to establish that network that, kind of like saying, hey, we can be an informant for you, reporter. And we want to be able to like get a hold of you if we hear of something that's urgent has just come up, and we want to make sure that the media is aware of it as soon as possible, especially as we get closer to the election. And there might be a lot of noise going on, and we want to make sure that the legacy media is aware of some of the signs that maybe we see happening that maybe they're not focusing on because they've been distracted by something else.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, we are doing outreach. We're trying to get our idea out to other cities, maybe even cities and states and counties that are maybe more vulnerable to this kind of thing. Like Fulton County, Georgia, was just rated recently for its 2020 ballots, and it could possibly happen again this year.
Remember when Tulsi
Um,
Gabbard went down there?
that's what Tulsi Gabbard went down there, and the new director of national intelligence, acting director of national intelligence, Bill Pulte, he's probably even more of a concern in terms of like election denialism because he has shown from his work with the Federal Housing Administration, I believe that he is willing to essentially use the tools of government to do exactly as Donald Trump directs him to, whether it is something that's really appropriate or even or fair or not.
Yeah. Sarah, did you have a question?
I have 17.
Oh, well,
Um,
but what's
I
what's the
have,
first one that
but
really
like the
got
first
out there?
one is like, okay, so we're the plan is to keep an eye out. Is there any particular, I guess it's a question of strategy. Like, are there any areas that in our area are looking most vulnerable? Are we mainly looking at watching on election night? Or are there things we can do leading up to election night that
Um, as far as most vulnerable, we actually have a data analyst in our alliance already, and he's looking into maybe doing something a little more scientific with data based in terms of trying to figure out where the most vulnerable places are. Now, until he completes that analysis, we're kind of just going on common sense, which is that the idea probably would be that the bluer counties in the swing states would probably, when I say bluer, I mean most likely to vote against the administration's party. These would probably be the most vulnerable for being targeted. But then again, it could be a purple county, which might be more of a target because unlike a blue county, which is pretty known, it's going to go one way or another. Purple county could be a little more vulnerable because it's a swing county. So maybe that would be a place where it could be a close call as to who's winning a certain, say, for example, U.S. congressional district race. Now, your second question, though, was part of your question was what again, sir?
it was well, I asked about which counties are most vulnerable and like
Mhm.
what's the major strategy?
The major strategy. Well, you had a different question besides the other question was good too, and I
Like,
wanted
are
to
we
get to.
only looking at taking action on elect? Because I remember when we talked at the brunch, you were saying how you would have teams maybe watching it at certain precincts.
Oh,
Uh,
yes, yes.
so like, and so I'm asking strategically that way. Are we only looking at going out election night? Are we looking at
Mhm.
like, is there a strategy for mail-in voting? What's the plan?
Right. Um, so what we're the watching part, the keeping an eye on things, is very much doing it now. I mean, we're doing it right now already. We have been, and because there will be signs. This administration has signaled some of its intent in terms of like its election interference ideas. So we're watching out for things like that. And so we will also be watching on the night of the election, and we're probably not necessarily going to be watching at precincts because there are so many precincts. I mean, like in Hamilton County, where Cincinnati is alone, there are more than 500 precincts. But the idea is that these precincts, of course, they don't keep the ballots there. What they do is they take these ballots and voting machines and the flash drives they use with the voting machines, and they take them to the Board of Elections. The County Board of Elections happens to be in Norwood, Ohio, and that's where the counting is done down in Norwood, Ohio. And we think that if there is a ballot seizure, it's most likely to take place at the County Board of Elections. So only one place in the county, and that's probably going to be one of the places where we're keeping an eye out and just saying, hey, is there any indication that the federal authorities or military or DHS type authorities seem to be, showing up because they intend to seize the ballots of the people of Cincinnati and Hamilton County. And it could even be after election night. It could be the next day. It could be any time before the election, the votes are certified. Now, of course, once the election's called, it's going to be a little bit less timely for the administration to interfere by seizing ballots and voting machines. But then again, I mean, if you can seize them before certification, maybe when the court cases are going on, if there are court cases where the candidates are fighting over who won, that could do things like, for example, interfere with the chain of custody of the ballots, and it might be hard to have a court case between candidates trying to decide well who won the case if the evidence itself, the ballots or the voting machines, the actual originals, as opposed to or as opposed to maybe just copies, are seized, then there might not be any evidence for a court to make a decision as to who really won the election. So it could have really happened any time between voting and election
Including
night
early voting.
and certification. It could even happen during early voting. But what some of us were thinking in the Ballot Integrity Alliance is that the most likely time when such a seizure would take place, because it would have the most devastating effect on actually interfering in the election, would probably be election night, right after the polls close. And of course, in Ohio, they close at 7:30. So probably sometime between 7:30 until sometime in the nighttime. It could even be sometime in the middle of the night when everyone's sleeping. Everyone's unaware of what's going on. I mean, you might wake up to the next morning to find out my vote was seized, along with my entire county's votes were seized, and nobody knows who won our local congressional elections or who won the U.S. Senate race in Ohio or who won the governor's race, because Hamilton County's votes or Butler counties or Warren counties or Claremont counties, they've been taken.
I mean, speaking for myself, I mean, there are many different people watching this video. Some people, these issues will be new to them. Many others, you don't have to convince them at all of the seriousness of this. You're preaching to the choir. What they want to know is, what can they do? What actions can they take now as
Mhm.
citizens of Ohio or Indiana? We have people in Indiana, Kentucky as well. What can they actually do? Communicating with politicians, communicating with each other, getting involved with Ballot Integrity Alliance. We
Mhm.
can put all your socials along with this video wherever we post it.
Sure.
Um, they want to know, what can they do
Okay.
now with
Well,
you?
we would welcome you to come join Ballot Integrity Alliance Cincinnati. I mean, there is a vetting actually to join our group because we have we try to maintain some sort of operational discipline, um, and
Vetting
we want
like
to, of course,
Mhm.
yes.
what's the vetting? What steps do you take to vet someone?
Oh, well, I don't want to get too much into the details of that, but we
That's
essentially
classified.
we're trying to get people we can trust, okay? Uh, and for various reasons, responsible people, citizens. We're nonpartisan. There is no like party requirement. Of course, you pretty much have to be a pro-democracy person. That's kind of the idea behind Ballot Integrity Alliance. You can join our Facebook page. You can follow our Facebook page, Ballot Integrity Alliance-Cincinnati. You can find us there. If you hear of anything and you don't necessarily want to join our alliance, but you hear of something, please send us a message through the Facebook page, through the Messenger app, uh, and we'll check it out. And if you want to, maybe if you're not in the Cincinnati area, but you want to found your own Ballot Integrity Alliance chapter for where you are, wherever you are in the state of Ohio, or maybe in Kentucky or Indiana, or say you're in a different city, please. That's actually what we're kind of hoping. That's why we put the hyphen Cincinnati at the end of Ballot Integrity Alliance, because the hope and the dream is that there would be other chapters that would start forming around the country. And maybe even if they weren't fully, obviously, this is a very new organization, even if we wouldn't have that many, for example, the 2026 midterm elections, maybe by the 2028 election, presidential election, which we think actually is even more vulnerable to the idea of election interference, maybe by then there would be BIAs all over the country.
Well, there are
So,
there are ballot integrity initiative organizations in other cities. I just happened to come across one in Chicago. Um,
What was it called?
and I can't remember it. I mean, I can't remember exactly, but I mean, there are others, and they've presumably organized themselves as well. And one thing I've found valuable in grassroots organizing is learning from each other. You know, uh, the grassroots movements in Columbus, for example, were kind of ahead of the curve and had more people and money, and kind of I learned, they had some great advice and kind of examples of how to do these things. And I think you can learn from security initiative projects in the state and in other states. There's a lot of that kind of sharing of information.
But
And
as far as we know, there isn't like one national organization that's an umbrella that's like organizing all of these
like Indivisible, there's nothing quite like that?
that you
we're
know
we're
of.
working, we're working with other activist groups in the area, including like 5501, Coffee Compassion Action,
Oh, right, yeah,
There's
as well as other, yeah, I mean, sure, we're all part of a web of kind of grassroots organizing in the area. But I was just
yes,
thinking of like ballot protection, particularly the
yeah.
organizations I think are
Nationwide,
big
like
enough.
one nationwide
Yeah.
organization.
Ours is the only one that we know of that's focused specifically on ballot seizures. I'm not specifically aware of any other organization that is specifically focused on that one thing. And the reason we picked one thing to focus on was because, we're a small group, and it's kind of like you can either do one thing well or you can do a lot of things poorly. And there are other organizations that are involved, for example, in registering voters. And, as we know, there's an Ohio group that registers voters that was just raided by the FBI, because I guess there are other organizations that are doing other things, but there was just this vacuum. It just seemed like there wasn't really, other than maybe lawyers, there wasn't any citizens groups that seem to be focusing on, okay, what do you do after the polls close? I mean, yes, there are groups that are like concerned about, okay, what about voter intimidation? ICE surrounding precincts, polling places. Yes, that's one thing, and that's not necessarily what our group is focusing on. What we're focusing on is this specific risk of, okay, so the polls close. Now what? Because that's not when the shenanigans will likely end. There will probably be more shenanigans. We think the administration is going to try the spaghetti against the wall approach and try to see what sticks. Another,
Your
you said,
specific goal is to watch out for ballots being seized. It's not
yeah,
necessarily to have a wide ranging, like the office that got raided with the voter registration office. It's not necessarily going for, gerrymandering and all of that. You're just focused in on waiting and watching to see if the ballots get seized.
yes, that's our focus. That's our specialty, for lack of a better word. Um, we wanted to make sure that somebody was watching this because there's going to be a lot of noise and a lot of things going on. It's the shotgun approach that we think the administration will take, and this is the one we chose that we wanted to focus on. You asked also like how do people get involved? One thing we're asking people to do is, like for example, check out our Facebook page, see the kind of messaging and like the memes and the posts and the articles we're sharing, and we ask you, please share those. Like share those on your own social media. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to your own groups that you belong to, your parishes, your churches, whoever, like get the word out. Look, if you
Your
are if
your
you
re-
care about the
representatives, your representatives in Congress, your representatives in the state government, your the
Matt
officials
loves
in the
to
state of
interact with
Ohio.
his representatives on Facebook.
Oh, why, yes. Or I
I've
mean, there are
watched him
many.
in action.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of kind of rattling their cage and shaking them up so that to the point where they kind of lash out and show who they really are, or their supporters kind of show who they really are, the dark underbelly, as it were. But I mean, but no, I mean, yes, I always direct communication with politicians is always the best way. As a voter, an identifiable voter with a state or federal official showing the power you have and what your situation is and what you know. That's always the best way to do that. And your organization someone can become more informed on this issue and use that to have more impact with elected officials. I
correct.
mean,
And we have reached out to local officials,
you have.
because once again, it is the states that have the power to hold elections, and so we are reaching out to local officials to try to let them know, like, hey, there is this risk. We want to make sure that you're ready for it, and that there are groups of citizens here in the area who are also watching out for this, and we'd like to keep in touch because we might have information that could be useful to you if we find out something is going on, and vice versa. If there's anything that like we can be of assistance with in terms of like spreading community awareness, we would love to do that. We're establishing a hotline. That's one of the things we're doing right now is we're actually establishing a hotline where you can call in with tips, or so it might be a little more high tech than that and just calling in, but it's going to be something where we can actually get tips and maybe even just spread information digitally, so that people can call in, find out what's going on, and be aware, so that they can, especially if something's coming up that's urgent and timely, and like for example, hey, we need to get on protest this because this is going on right now.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, CCA has had similar things. Some of the activities going on in CCA, kind of building a foundation of connections so that we can quickly,
Mhm.
organize in a particular location at a particular event that we've done. So you have this hotline. Have you gotten any kind of response from elected officials at all to your
Yes.
concerns, expressions you have? Are you willing to share those with us?
I prefer not to actually, just because we're trying to maintain a certain amount of trust with local officials and we're trying to maintain these networks, information networks, and we don't necessarily want to reveal exactly what our game plan is because, of course, the election deniers, which unfortunately also include the federal administration, they have a game plan too, and we don't necessarily want to show them our cards as to what it is we're doing to try to
Mhm.
counter what they're trying to do in terms of interfering with our elections.
But you've made these connections, and that's part of the work you're doing. And
Yeah.
becoming part of your organization can mean becoming part of that network of connections and information. There are
Yeah.
valuable connections there, and that's a reason to become part of your alliance. Become part of the alliance. Okay.
Yes, correct. And you don't have to call yourself that. I mean, if you have a group you want to form, you want to call it something different, call it something different. We're not in this for the fame and glory. We're in this because we care about democracy and we're trying to protect our votes and everyone's votes, no matter how you vote. I mean, this is totally nonpartisan. If you want to vote Republican or Democrat or you know third party, independent, whatever. I mean, it's all we care about is voting is the only legitimate constitutional power that citizens have to govern themselves. If you don't have voting, if you don't have democratic elections for representatives and for issues, then you don't have the right to govern yourselves, and you live in something that's not a democracy. You live in a society where you're not a citizen, you're a subject. You have no say in your own government. If you don't like the way things are going, too bad. You have to live with it, and I don't want to live in a society like that. I don't want my children to live in a society like that, and that's why we're doing what we're doing.
I mean, just speaking for myself, of course, I agree completely. I mean, the very legitimacy of American society institutions is in question because of all of this. The whole foundations could come crumbling down. I am an historian of 19th century America. There was another nation inside the country for 4.5 years. It has happened before. The whole thing did come crashing down. And so it's not unprecedented. It's not something from outside of the American experience, at all. It can happen again. I take it all very seriously. Um,
Absolutely.
but just speaking for myself, of course. Sarah, did you have another question or thought about?
Just about 12 more. So once I have kind of a stupid question because I'm just sitting here, I'm thinking like, what happens when ballots get seized? Like, I don't know that I know the answer to that. Like, if the ballots get seized, what's the reason we don't want the ballots to be seized? Which sounds, but like, what happens after the ballots get seized? What would the administration potentially do with seized ballots?
Okay. Well, if say the administration did seize the ballots and take them off somewhere to a military base or an FBI facility, um, then how would the courts be able to decide, who won the election as between this candidate or that candidate? The original evidence. I mean, if it is the original ballots and the voting machines themselves and the flash drives, as opposed to just copies, um, how would a court determine who is the winner? And also, like, what kind of evidence would there be? Because if the original evidence is gone, it's this the chain of custody of the evidence is broken. Uh, can anyone really have confidence at that point that once the ballots are counted by whomever they're counted, whether they're counted by the federal government or they're returned to the states and the states count them, there'll be a question. There'll be this uncertainty. Okay, well, is that really all the ballots? Did some of them get lost somewhere when the chain of custody was broken? And
Like
and
that
maybe
scene from Election when he just takes two off the top and crumples them up and puts them
exactly,
in a
and maybe
waste paper.
that the uncertainty and the chaos that would create maybe that's part of the intent. Maybe that's what the election deniers are trying to do. They're trying to make it such that it's so uncertain as to who won that maybe you just have to disregard the election results, or you just have to have the state legislatures or Congress decide, well, we're going to take a vote and we think this candidate won or that candidate won, because you can't tell from the ballots who won because it's too uncertain.
In the
The
1860 presidential election, Lincoln only got 40% of the vote because his name did not appear in the ballot in 17 states. Those
Wow.
states didn't want anyone to know that there was any support for Lincoln at all in those, including Kentucky. His name did not appear on the ballot in Kentucky, much less Alabama. So these states did not want anyone to know what degree of support Lincoln had. So he wasn't. That was a way of introducing doubt about the legitimacy of Lincoln in these states by not letting there be a legitimate vote count in the first place. It's different, but it's also similar to the kind of the introducing doubt into the whole electoral process that you're talking about, I think.
No, sowing doubt, I think, is part of what the election denialism movement is about. It's not about, they say that we want to restore public confidence in free and fair elections. That's very ironic considering it's the election deniers who have destroyed confidence in free and fair elections, created this myth that you know millions of illegal like with what they call illegal aliens, or undocumented people who are not U.S. citizens are voting, which of course is it's so rare that it's mathematically insignificant if it in the few events that's actually happened. And it definitely hasn't affected any election results. By the way, I'm surprised to hear that Alabama even had a vote during the Civil War. It just seems like that's something that they probably would have been voting for the Confederate president instead.
Well, the Confederacy didn't exist yet, and there were there
Oh,
were there were
okay.
three different Democrats. Well, they were essentially the Southern Democratic Party had broken into three different parts. There were three different candidates. There were four candidates nationally. You would have had a
Hmm.
choice of four in Ohio, Lincoln and three Democrats. But
Wow.
so you had a choice in all those states, but in 17 of them, Lincoln was not one of those choices. I suppose you could have written them in, uh, but he's not on the ballot, so you can't really know how much support Lincoln would have had,
It's
And
like
so,
the Bernie Sanders of the Civil War era.
well, you could say that. I mean, so when Lincoln goes to Washington to inaugurate,
2016 Bernie Sanders of the Civil War era.
right? I mean, you think there was a lot more support for him than the Democratic Party was willing to
Right. The
allow to
Democratic
be
Party just
demonstrated.
basically swooped in and it was like, these votes are for Bernie Sanders, but no, they're not. They're for Hillary.
So you mean in the Democratic Party or in the primaries? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So okay, yes. I mean, so yeah, there's similarities, but there are differences there within parties, within these things.
Hmm.
But so my point was just that historians always like to say, well, if it happened before, it can happen. It's much more likely to happen again. And so
Absolutely.
this is not unprecedented.
But
It's all happened before. There was a civil war. There was another country in the country. It did all happen before. It's not science fiction. It's not from outside the American experience. I'm just I'm just trying to make my career relevant to people
your
here
career
and
is
now.
very relevant.
Very relevant,
But like
especially.
our voting system looks very different now. And so I guess what when I ask like what happens when the ballots get seized, it is there's when I vote, I don't know a ton about what happens to that little piece of paper that I put in the digital scan that because it makes like a little digital scan of your vote when you fill out the ballot. So I'd always assumed that just gets saved in some amorphous database that is concrete and irrefutable. So when they're seizing ballots, are they just seizing the paper? Are they seizing the digital, the PDFs? What are they seizing?
I can answer for Ohio. In Ohio, you fill out your ballot, you scan it into the voting machine. Uh, no voting machines are connected to the internet. That's a common misconception that somehow these are connected to the internet and that somehow these are transmitted over long distances, and that's how you get the election results so fast. The voting machines, well, the ballot goes into the bottom of the voting machine. And the voting machine, of course, has an image of that ballot too. And that image is also on the flash drive. There's a flash drive that goes into the voting machine. The voting machine and the ballots all together they're loaded into trucks from each precinct, and they're taken in trucks down to the Board of Elections. And in Hamilton County, it would be taken down to the Hamilton County Board of Elections in Norwood, and there the flash drive is taken out. It's I don't know if it's taken out there or it's taken out at the precinct or whatever, but either way, the flash drive is put into the computer at the Board of Elections, and then that tally is immediately added to the county's tally. It's pretty fast, but you still have to have that voting machine flash drive physically delivered by a Hamilton County sheriff to the Hamilton County Board of Elections. And there are, once all like 500 something precincts report in, and all these flash drives get put into the Board of Elections database. That's when the first count is done, and that's when you start getting the initial results. Like, oh, it's this many precincts reporting. 94% of the precincts in this county reporting. But yeah, not connected to the internet. And yes, you have the paper original, which is kind of like the ultimate evidence if it ever does get contested or there's a recount. And then you have the image too. So you have a backup. And if the backup is seized, that's not as serious, of course. I mean, if you're just seizing copies, not as big of a concern in terms of interfering with the election. But if the whole thing is seized, the ballot, the flash drive, the images, everything, then obviously what evidence is there as to who won the election? And you wouldn't have to steal that many to throw the election results into doubt. When I say steal, I mean like seize. Presumably, the seizure would be pursuant to some sort of a warrant, a search warrant, seizure warrant. Now, if that would have to be approved, signed by a federal judge or a federal magistrate. But then again, I mean, sometimes it seems like this particular administration acts without having judicial warrants. Sometimes they like we've seen in the immigration enforcement that's been going on this year. Sometimes there will be warrantless entrances into residences or administrative warrants. These are warrants apparently not signed by any judge. These are just signed by some sort of federal official who says, "Hey, we intend to come in here and do a search or arrest somebody." Now, for something as serious as seizing ballots, you would think obviously the federal government would want to get a federal judge or a federal magistrate to sign a warrant. And they would have to show what's called probable cause under Amendment 4 of the U.S. Constitution, probable cause to believe that there was a crime committed. What we think the federal government would be likely to do is to allege some sort of foreign interference, saying that, hey, the director of national intelligence, in this case, one of the administration's new Bill Pulte, he might come in and say, wait, I have this evidence that the Iranians or the Chinese or the North Koreans are interfering in our election. And we have this evidence, Your Honor, and we ask that you please let us seize all the ballots and voting machines in this county or that county or this city or that city or this state or that state. And these just happen to be like, the most important states, swing states, in terms of like how the House or U.S. House or the U.S. Senate will turn, or how this state governorship or that state governorship will hinge.
And what's the timeline from, okay, so when does a ballot become like it's I guess it's timeline of vulnerability from like when it gets cast, either mail in person early or in person election day? What's the whole full timeline of when it's at risk?
Well, I particularly, and the members of our Ballot Integrity Alliance, we think that they're most at risk when they're all brought into the same location. All the precincts have been brought in, all the mail-in ballots have all been gone to the same place. They've all gone to the County Board of Elections. In Ohio, there are 88 counties. Each county has its own Board of Elections. That's where the counting takes place. That's where we think the seizure is most likely to take place, at the county boards of elections. That's for Ohio. It's probably very similar in other states. They probably do it. I know for a fact, for example, in Georgia, Fulton County, where the FBI did actually seize the ballots and the ballot boxes from the 2020 election, and that was recent. That was this year. Obviously, that election's over and done with, but maybe that was a trial run. Maybe the federal government was trying to see, okay, well, if we were going to seize an entire urban county's ballot boxes, how would you logistically do it? What kinds of equipment would you need? What kinds of logistics would you need? What kinds of people would you need? What kinds of warrants, et cetera? It might have been a dry run. It might have been a trial to see, okay. And also, maybe the federal government was trying to see what would the reaction be from society, from citizens, from pro-democracy groups, from politicians of whatever party. How would they react to this? Obviously, for the 2020 election, something that's already been done and in the past and resolved. Well, some people are still keeping it alive, but it's not as momentous. But obviously, for an election that hasn't even been called yet or hasn't been certified, it could be a lot bigger deal.
And so if people are in the Ballot Integrity Alliance and they're ready to keep watch or do whatever needs to be done on election night, the work will be going to the county boards of elections, we think.
We will actually have people probably watching the county boards of elections, not just Hamilton County, but actually also in the area, probably
Butler. And then Butler.
Butler, Warren, Claremont, because we want to watch. We want to keep an eye on the activity, both because we want to be able to sound the alarm if we hear of anything, but also because we want to witness. We think witnessing is extremely important. Recording, and we have every right to be on public, property in terms of like sidewalks and to a certain extent streets, as long as you're not interfering with traffic. Witnessing, recording, very, very important because one of the things we're trying to tell officials who might engage in election interference is we're watching, we're recording, we are witnessing, and you will be held accountable for what you're doing because what you're doing is unconstitutional. The states have the constitutional authority to hold elections and run elections and count ballots in elections. The president of the United States has zero constitutional authority to do that. And we're watching. We're going to witness, and we will. That evidence will become something. If you intend to be part of the administration, if they do this, you will be you will be recorded as you are doing whatever it is you're doing, and
Carlos,
you may be.
that's something you can do on election day, but that's something you can do well before. You can let them
Sure.
know it's coming. I know you're operating confidentially certain political operators, whoever they are, but that's something you can let them know in advance. We will be watching, and you can even once you're in on issues in which you're ready to go public, you can try to force politicians to make a public statement about election integrity. Force the issue with them, get them to take a stance, and that draws attention to them, attention they may not want.
Absolutely.
So that's a political activity you can do from now until the election, as well as backing it up by being there on election day at the Board of Elections, being visible to them, being visible to who the other voters and the old school media, such as they still exist. So yeah,
that's what I think we're trying to do is we're trying to destroy the element of surprise that we think the administration is trying to have because to steal an election, you to a certain extent they want to have the element of surprise. They want to come in last minute and say, "Oh, we just discovered this intelligence that the Iranians have interfered. They've hacked our voting machines somehow, even though the voting machines are not connected to the internet." Stranger conspiracy theories exist out there about Venezuelan interference with voting machines.
The Haitians are bringing their cat kebabs down to the Board of Elections.
Right. And we are actually signaling ahead of time. You will not have the element of surprise. We are watching now. We are alerting everyone now. The public, the media, the pro-democracy legal establishment. We're letting everyone know now. We're watching, and will not be a surprise. We see it coming. Everyone sees it coming. So maybe don't even try it.
Yes, prevention is better than a cure.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I encourage you to use CCA, to spread the word, because a place to get contact with people who might not be connected in any other way. But of course, you've got a whole web of grassroots organizations that have popped up in the last year and a half, to kind of funnel information to you and to support this in various ways. I think there's a lot of work that could be done, that if someone wants to, as I say, get in on the ground floor of a new organization and have real impact where they are.
Mhm.
This sounds like a real opportunity.
I'm down. I love a good stakeout.
Yes, I mean, CCA, we're very experienced with kind of setting up in various locations, setting up our banners in various locations, confronting officials
Mhm.
with banners. Sometimes we get media attention, sometimes we don't. We just have our big canvas, our vinyl banners and our bullhorns, and we know how to draw attention to things. So I think, that there are people even in our organization that can use that experience and for the issue of ballot integrity. Yeah.
Yes. And we
So,
have to get the word out beyond people who are involved with CCA or
oh yeah.
Ballot Integrity Alliance or 5051 or No Kings or Indivisible. We have to get the word out to the general public, to our friends, to our family, to our neighbors, to our church groups, to whoever. Um, Everyone should be aware, hey, this election will probably not go off without a hitch. I mean, if you thought 2020 was kind of a chaotic, this could be worse. And we want you to be ready for that, prepared for that. And just, be aware that this is, you're going to hear a lot of noise. You're going to hear a lot of like chaos. We want you to not tune out, pay attention, pay close attention, avoid the distractions that are going to be thrown out there, and focus on your vote, protecting your vote, your neighbor's vote, your friend's vote, your family's vote. Everyone should be focusing on protecting our vote because that's all we have in terms of like being citizens and not being subjects to a king.
Protect it like your bank account. Protect it like your finances. Think about it that way, as an investment, you know.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for, yeah, you've given a lot of information. I think this will get a lot of people thinking, a lot of people curious. I hope it'll bring more people to your organization, more attention to this issue. Uh,
Yes.
Sarah, any
Our Facebook page. It's
yeah, well,
Ballot Integrity Alliance-Cincinnati. Please visit, follow us, comment, like, send us messages if you hear of anything. If you'd like to join our group, send us a message through, through Ballot Integrity Alliance Cincinnati Facebook page. Maybe you can join us and you can be involved in the pre-election education, reaching out to media, you getting involved with your own social media accounts, just trying to get the word out that, we want we want everyone to keep watch, and, make sure we're protecting our votes.
okay, yeah, we'll include all of the links for your group with the video everywhere that we put it, so people will have it right there with them. So, anything else you wanted to ask, Sarah?
Nope. I think I covered most everything that I wanted to. Just
Okay.
where do I sign up?
Yeah. One more thing to fit into your schedule. How do we do it? Well, it's all prioritizing for all of us. How do you prioritize yourself? That's an important thing. So this is informing yourself and then prioritizing yourself. For some people, this will be the thing. Voter integrity will be the thing that, or ballot integrity will be the thing that that they want to focus on. And so I hope this helps them get to you. So
I agree. And, I actually, people who are involved in activism, we have lots of different opportunities to be involved in activism. There are so many worthwhile causes. The reason I picked this one is because I think to myself that, if you have the right to vote and to muster other voters to vote, then you can change things. If you don't, and if your only power is to complain or protest, then everything else, kind of like every other activist cause you have, will fall by the wayside, because voting is how you actually get the people in power to listen to you.
yes, yes, we all have individual power. We can all build our power in our own, we can build our networks of power. We are not, no one is powerless. We all have power. and we can build it. And that's what we're all
Absolutely.
doing. So yes, I mean, in these cynical times, well, I don't know. See, I mean, some people are very cynical about politics, but because they think they're powerless. My message is that they're not, and your message is that they're not. So
We are
another,
definitely not powerless. If we were powerless, then some people would not be trying so hard to make it hard for us to vote.
yeah. If people aren't pushing back against you, you don't have power. That's always been my motto. Yes. So, and they are pushing back because we have power. Absolutely. Well, this has been great. I'm really glad that we could find the time to have this conversation. Don't know when we're all so busy how we could have this in person. I don't know. And now we get to share it with a lot of people. I think a lot of people see this and who knows what will come from this. So you might have a much larger organization to organize, a lot of people to organize pretty soon.
I mean, even if he gets like 3 more people,
Oh, three, yes, three more people can do a
it was
lot.
worth the time.
Three people can do a lot in this world. Absolutely. So, and I learned a lot. Thank you. I did.
Sarah and Matt, thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it. On behalf of everyone in Ballot Integrity Alliance Cincinnati, thank you very much for giving us your time.
Rock
Well,
out. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's been great. Okay, I stopped the recording now.
Have a good